Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whate'er may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely, assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O man of God, have done with lesser things, give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O man of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O man of God, the church for you doth wait, her strength unequal to her task. Rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod, as brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good evening.
Let's edify.
The Saints professionalism and shenanigans.
Gonna have to poke him till he gets it right.
Did you say?
the,
Oh,
the pause was needed.
Right.
I think I'm just.
I don't.
Yeah.
They never accuse me of that.
I think I'm not allowed to comment.
You're not allowed to comment?
I don't know.
Did
Wait,
Facebook block you?
now it's working on this post, but it wasn't working when I went to tag.
Hello, Reba.
Oh, now I can't. Are
Out the
you
back door and do that
Hey,
to the cat.
Reba.
are you gonna tag him? I say.
Oh, give me a moment.
Okay.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, wait. No, that's wrong. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, as the skies are not cloudy all day. Play ball.
Hello, Reba.
We already said hello to Reba.
Wow, CJ, that was
You're
so
laggy.
delayed.
You are laggy.
Hi.
Tigger,
That was so delayed,
I
CJ.
need a napkin, please. Be right back. I will be right back.
Okay. I don't know if I'll be up for singing because I am dealing with a sore throat today, so I don't know.
You probably ought to rest your throat. Singing with a sore throat may sound all nice and good in concept, in mind, but generally the sound itself does not sound very good.
Yeah,
Oh, but it gives such a wonderful bluesy feel to it.
The concept
Hello,
is
Andy.
sound, but the concept sound.
it's like
Those
it's
boys are evil.
it's
EVILBOYS.
it's
What?
like a scratchy. It goes from sore to scratchy to sore to scratchy
Well,
and
you
what?
better.
Yeah, I'm probably.
The problem is, Angie, he never ever gives heed to what we tell him about tea. Oh, I'll get tea the next time I'm out. And he never does.
Cold water?
So we're just casting our pearls before swine in this case.
Cold water?
Yeah.
What?
Cold water?
Nope. It has to be tea. It
Oh,
has to be an herbal infusion from the tea that will help your boost your immune system.
hot
But you
tea with
see, you
lemon
never listen to
and
us.
honey.
Hello, Sam. How are you doing? Tigger? Nah. Get out there.
I want to have a voice tomorrow, so I think I'm gonna forgo singing because I never know whether or not my scratchy throat turns into a no voice day. So I'm out for singing.
Ooh, Linda. Sam says keep the pearls and the cash in it. Cash it in more valuable uses. Keep the pearls. Pearls. Oh, I see. Pearls.
Yeah, the ones that you're supposed
Don't
to be throwing before
don't say
CJ.
pearls. We're like, what in the world? Keep the pearls and cash it in. More valuable uses. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, there's more valuable
Yeah,
uses than throwing it
we
before CJ.
we could throw it in our tapioca pudding. Angie says, "I'm sorry I missed your streams. I'm tired, so I'm going to listen." Well, you're listening.
Yep.
That's a plus. That's an encouragement to us, sister.
Yep.
And we hope we're an encouragement to you as you listen.
Do you know that Cleopatra decided to show Mark Antony how rich she was? So she actually took a pair of valuable pearl earrings and she put them in her drink. The wine dissolved the pearls and she drank them just to show off to to Mark Antony.
Wow.
Now understand that Mark Antony and Octavius were fighting for the Roman Empire. They both wanted Cleopatra and her money. Mark Antony, or she chose Mark Antony, and Octavius ended up getting the throne. That was after the assassination by Brutus of Julius Caesar. Octavius happened to be the nephew of Julius Caesar. So Octavius was confirmed on the throne by the Senate. Mark Antony tried to raise an army to take the kingdom away from the empire, the Roman Empire away from him, and well, he died a horrible death, and she died, I believe, in a fire. Anyway, Sam says, see you at the doctor then. Reba says, I'm not feeling great today. I ate something that tore my stomach up. It must have been them jalapenos in that chili. You had some fireman chili, didn't you? You know, one of those 7-alarm chilies? Yes, she did, Sam. She lived for a while, but she ended up. I'm trying to remember exactly how she perished. I believe that when Mark Antony died, rather than face Octavius's wrath, she because Octavius mounted an attack on Egypt, rather than face his wrath, she burnt the house down around herself. So
Yeah, because I was wondering what Sam was there, because I believe a pearl is technically what it's a grain of sand that got caught inside of the clam, isn't it?
doesn't have an oyster, and it doesn't have to be a sand. It can be any small particle.
Yeah.
That causes an irritation. So the oyster then builds up, and it actually doesn't have to be just an oyster.
Right.
But anyway, it causes the irritation to the lining of the stomach of the oyster, and the stomach secretes a I don't know what they call it. Anyway, it secretes a substance that builds up over time, and then Obviously, they kill the oyster and pull the pearls out.
Well, are you guys ready to study?
Certainly. Today we are in. We resume our prophecy, or not prophecy. Our study of the prophets. Our study of the prophets. Our kind of overview of the prophets. We're going to pick up in Micah where we left off, right before left off for the evening edification gospel meeting. And thank you to O'Shea for stepping in and filling in for me.
Are you CJ?
It was.
Micah is from the town or surrounding villages of Morasheth, which is near Gath. He refers to himself as the Morashethite, or Morashite. So he's northwest of Jerusalem, about some 20 miles, or southwest of Jerusalem, some 20 miles. Lived through three different kings from approximately 738 to 698 BC. Remember, in the before Christ era, the timeline or the years counted down, and after Christ, the years are counting up.
Can you send someone in with some cold water for me, please? Thank you.
Your brother needs some water.
Can you do that for me too?
I don't think it'd work on your end. I can't whistle loud enough.
Neither can CJ.
Your brother needs water. I am so fine.
You're gonna end up spitting, CJ. You know, like that.
So we've dealt with Micah's prophecies against Samaria and Judah. We've dealt with his denunciation of the rulers, the false prophets, the priests. We're in Micah tonight, and we're going to jump over to Malachi for one chapter after we get done with Micah. And we look forward in Micah to the hope of a redemptive future. We kind of covered that a couple weeks ago. Now we get to jump to go into chapters 6 and 7 tonight, and we're going to look at. We're going to open it up and look at the Bible from see what 6 and 7 bring us. Shay is going to start us off with chapter 6.
I love how CJ kicks me off, but leaves Dad's up. Okay, Micah chapter 6. Here in Micah chapter 6, we have verses 1 and 2. God is calling witnesses. He says, Hear ye now what Jehovah saith. Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear, O ye mountains, Jehovah's controversy, and ye enduring foundations of the earth. For Jehovah hath a controversy with his people, and he will controversy with his people, and he will contend with Israel. God is calling witnesses of the mountains and the fountains. He is about ready to have a dispute with Israel, and he's calling witnesses. 3 through 5, we have God asking Israel. He says, My people, what have I done unto thee? And wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. He says, What did I do to thee that you aren't listening? Basically. He says, how did I weary thee? How am I making you tired? Tell me. And 4 and 5, he lists some things he did for them. He brought them out of Egypt. He redeemed them out of the house of bondage. He gave them leaders, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. He says, my people, remember Balak, the king of Moab, what he devised, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him. Remember. And he lists some more names. He says, that ye may know the righteous acts of Jehovah. God says, I never did anything wrong. I saved you. I brought you out of Egypt. I redeemed you out of the house of bondage. All my acts toward you have been righteous. Going on down verse 8, we have Micah saying, he hath showed thee, O man, what is good. Micah is beseeching Israel, men. He says, he hath showed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth Jehovah require of thee? But to do justly, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with thy God. This is what I would say the key verse of this chapter is. God makes known what he expects of his servants. He makes known. He says, Micah says, God made known to you what is good. And he told you what's required of thee. To do justly, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. Micah says, can't you do this? In verses 10 through 16, we have the punishments and the problems of Israel. They're very wicked, constantly living in it. He says, are there yet treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked? And a scant measure of that is, and a scant measure that is abominable? He says, there's wickedness there. God says, shall I be pure with wicked balances and a bag of deceitful weights? Are these things pure? Can I be pure using wicked balances and fake weights and measuring out justice? He continues to describe more problems. Lyings, rich men are violent. The tongue is deceitful. He goes on to say, therefore I also have smitten thee with a grievous wound, and I have made thee desolate because of thy sins. God lists why he made Israel desolate. Because they continually sinned. Because of their sins, he did this to them. And he declares very clearly, thou shalt eat, but be not satisfied, and thy humiliation shall be in the midst of thee. You're going to eat, but you're never going to be full. You're going to be constantly in humiliation. Thou shalt put away, but shall not save. You're going to try to save up, but it's never going to amount to anything. You shall sow, but shall not reap. Nothing that you sow, you plant, will grow. You'll never make it to harvest. You shall tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil. You're not going to get any olive oil, he says. Why? For the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of the house of Ahab, and ye walk in their counsels. You walk in the way, you keep Omri's commandments, and you do all the works of Ahab, and you walk in their counsels. That I make thee a desolation, and the inhabitants thereof a hissing, and ye shall bear the reproach of my people. That is what I have on Micah 6. 1 through 2, God calling witnesses. 3 through 5, God's blessings. what he did for Israel. Key verse is verse 8. God makes known his requirement. And 10 through 6 is the problems and punishments of Israel.
There's a cross reference on verse 15, and that is John 4, verse 37. Can you take us there?
Sure.
Micah 6:15 says, "Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil, and sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine." John chapter 4, verse 37.
Faster, faster, whoosh, whoosh.
CJ, are you cracking the whip again?
Says, "For herein is the saying true, one soweth and another reapeth." This is a direct quotation
Ooh.
from Micah chapter 6. You shall sow, but you shall not reap. So, in other words, one soweth, but another reapeth.
Isn't that frustrating?
I know it.
What, CJ? Is CJ cracking the whip, or
No, to work so hard to sell something, but you're not gonna reap the benefits.
right?
Somebody else is gonna come.
Right.
What
It,
else?
it is very frustrating.
It kind of reminds me along lines of what Solomon says. I planted all these things and I built all these things, but I don't know who's going to take care of them after I'm gone.
I don't know whether he'll be good or evil.
I don't know.
And isn't there another cross reference that kind of goes along with it that says, "Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap." God changes that saying. You know, um, where is it? Is that in 2 Corinthians?
I wouldn't know.
I'm thinking it's close to chapter 9.
It kind of runs in my mind that Israel gets told that they're not going to eat what they sow, at least more than once through these prophets.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure that. I mean,
give me a phrase you want me to search up, and I'll see if Esau can figure it out.
How about
but what did I just say?
I don't know.
Galatians?
I don't remember.
Galatians 6:7.
CJ going to pull a fast one on us. 6-7.
No, I said that very slowly. Galatians.
There's that one. Yes, and that's kind of what I was thinking of. But there was one also in. There's one in 2 Corinthians where it says that he that soweth sparingly shall reap sparingly. This is the one I was quoting earlier. For whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And you see this. God has changed the saying. It's not now in the new law. It's not one shall sow and another shall reap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
you were right.
How about this?
2 Corinthians 9:6.
This I say, he that soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he that soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Unfortunately, people have ripped this verse out of context, and used it for what we term the you might say it's the wealth gospel. What is that?
And she
Prosperity
says,
gospel.
The what?
Prosperity gospel.
There you go. The prosperity gospel. Why are you making all that racket out there?
Angie says, we did Micah for Bible study, but review is good. Yeah, I'm coining a saying, extra Bible never killed anybody.
Yep.
Matter of fact, to the opposite.
What I was going to point out is, unless you're not done with your point, Levi, I don't want
No,
to.
I just wanted to let people know that there is a cross reference to to Micah chapter 6,
Yeah, that's fine.
verse 15, and we can footnote that in our Bibles. I don't know why I've got that in my brain.
John.
Micah 6, Micah 6 verse 15 cross references to John 4:37. And you might want to tie those in with Galatians 6, verse 7, and 2 Corinthians 9, verse, what do we say that was?
Was that 6?
Yeah.
9:6.
Well, what I was going to say is I really like 6 and 7.
As in chapter or verse?
Verse 7. Verses 6 and 7. Jose kind of skipped over this in his review, but
Remember, general review.
right, you can't hit every detail, but I really like this. What shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams and tens of thousands of rivers of oil, these great gifts? Or does he want my firstborn? Does he want me to kill the dearest person to me? He doesn't want all these outward
A lot of rhetorical questions right here.
outward shows. He's told you, oh man, what is good. Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. He's shown you what is good.
Mm-hmm.
Verse, go ahead.
I would cross-reference this with Matthew 15, where Jesus talks about they worship me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me.
And that cross references to Isaiah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll cross-reference it to Isaiah first, and then
No. You link it to Isaiah, cross-reference it to Matthew.
Notice the prophetic nature of the last question in verse 7.
The firstborn?
Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? And yet, what does God do? God gives his firstborn for our sins, our transgressions.
That's right.
So there's kind of
his firstborn of spirit and flesh.
Foreshadowing there.
Sam says in 1 Corinthians, it talks about the builder and planter.
I think that's chapter 6. No. 3. Chapter 3.
Yes, the builder. You're right. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to 7 then, and let's keep moving. In chapter 7, we're introduced to the idea of to the general corruption that is present in the world. not just specifically in Israel, but it also carries with it to the world. For the good man, verse 2, is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. So this is one of our important verses here because it's showing how wicked men have become. And it is quite a correlation between the world of Genesis chapter 6, is it not? Now, verse 3, they made the reason that they're hunting with a net or hunting each his brother. This isn't just, we're hunting our neighbor or the guy, 6 miles over. No. They're hunting their brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. They're taking bribes. The great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire. And so they weave it together, they wrap it up. There's no one righteous. There's no one good. Everyone's evil, is what Micah is saying here. Traveling down to verse 5, after having spoken this complaint and characterization, lumping everybody together, he says this: trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Micah is giving advice to people. When he says trust not in a friend, don't even confide in them. Don't put your confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of your mouth from her that lieth in your bosom. Even from your wife. Don't it's like put your hand over your mouth, shut your mouth. Don't confide in her. Why? Because of verse 6. For the son dishonoreth the father. The daughter riseth up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Does that sound familiar? We're told, and I don't remember if it's in Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, but we're told not to speak ill of the ruler, even in our bedchamber, for a bird will carry it to the ears of that ruler. CJ will probably have that one right on for me. But anyway, Micah's saying don't trust. Don't trust in your friends. Don't even trust your wife, because your enemies are those of your own house. In Matthew chapter 10 and verse 35, I was getting there, CJ. You just chill your jets. Let me do this now. Come on, man. You'll have your own chance. Cross-reference Matthew chapter 10, verse 35 and 36. Jesus says, for I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foes shall be they of his own household. And then he goes on continuing and says that he who loves father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. He that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. So you want to cross-reference for verse 6, Matthew 10, verses 35 through, what do we go, 38? 39? Yeah, 38. You can also cross-reference Luke chapter 12, verse 53. The key verse is the next one that we come to, and that is verse 7. Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Micah expresses his total reliance upon God. Even when we are in the midst of a wicked and perverse generation, when all the world around us is evil and there is no one good, not even one, we can wait upon God. We can look to Him for our salvation, and God will hear our prayer. Another important verse is number 9. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against Him, until He plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold His righteousness. Micah confesses his sin, his transgression before God. And he also expresses his or demonstrates his humility in that he is waiting upon God and God's judgment. He has surrendered himself before God. And he is willing to bear the punishment. But notice in this verse, there's another phrase here. He will plead my cause. Until he plead my cause. God is not only his judge and his jury and his executioner, but he is also his defense lawyer. And in God's light, Micah says, I will behold his righteousness. He is looking forward to that day when God will have purged him of his sin and bring him into the light so he can behold God's righteousness. Now, verse 18. This chapter is unique, and from my perspective, in that it doesn't have one or just one key verse. It has two, and this is the second one. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity, and passeth by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. Who is a God like unto God? Who is a God out there that will pardon sin and overlook transgression of the remnant of his heritage? We look to Hebrews, and I forgot to mark this one. So let me see if I can find it so I can get that just right. I think it's Hebrews 10. It is Hebrews 10, verse 17. Hebrews 10:17. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Look at that. Who is a God like unto thee, that remembers or that pardons iniquities? Who is a God like unto thee that passes or overlooks transgressions, sins? These not only are rhetorical questions, but they're questions that are designed to prod you as the audience, as the respondent. There is none like God. There is none. God doesn't retain his anger forever. We said in Nuggets Thursday that there is Nugget 1 of our passage, and that was in Psalm, what was that Psalm? 120.
Was that 126?
Yes, 126 verse 1. We said for that nugget that there is an end to punishment, to God's punishment. And the verse simply states, when the Lord turned again or brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. There is an end to punishment. God chastises us according to Matthew or Hebrews chapter 12, but it's not going to chastise us forever. When we learn the lesson, there's an end. He doesn't retain his anger forever because he'd rather have mercy on us than always be angry. That's why he sent his son to die for us, to give us hope, to give us salvation, to be our propitiation. Do you know what propitiation means? It's used a couple of times in the New Testament. It means the mercy seat. Jesus is our mercy seat. We go to him to obtain the mercy of God. God delights in giving mercy. He's not a God who wants to be angry with us all the time, but it's our sins and our iniquities that have separated us. Isaiah 59 verses 1 and 2. So that's the second key verse of this chapter. I've got two more important verses, and that's verses 19 and 20. In speaking of how God does not retain his anger uh, because he delights in mercy, Micah says he will turn again. He will have compassion on us. He will subdue our iniquities, our wrong ways. And thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. What happens to our impurities? Let me ask you this, rather. When you look at it, when you oh, when you take a shower, take a bath, you wash the dirt off your body. Where does the dirt go? Does that same dirt come back and stick on you? Thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. It will not return and stick to us. Thou wilt perform, verse 20, the truth to Jacob and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. Micah ends his book of prophecy on a positive note, recalling how God is faithful, who has promised. He promised Jacob, and he promised Abraham and Isaac. He promised Abraham the land, nation, and blessing. He reiterated it to Jacob. He promised to be with Jacob's descendants. And Micah says, "You will perform the truth to Jacob." Remember what John 17:17 says, "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth." You will perform your word to Jacob, and the mercy to Abraham, which you have sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. Hebrews chapter 4. No, Hebrews chapter 5, or is it 6? Yeah, there's nothing like floundering around and getting the wrong verse there, the wrong reference. Hebrews chapter 6, verses 15 and 15 through 20. So after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. For men verily swear by the greater, and an oath is for confirmation is to them an end of all strife. Wherein God, willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things in which it was impossible for God to lie, we might have a strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope set before us, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which entereth into that within the veil, whither the forerunner is for us entered in, even Jesus Christ, or Jesus, made and high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. God would perform his truth and his mercy, his word, by turning again and having compassion on us, subduing our iniquities, and throwing all of our sins into the sea. That concludes our chapter, our book, study of the book of Micah. Any questions or comments? Sam does say that Job finds that out when his wife told him to curse God and die. CJ said, thinking that something maybe not as bad as it, at least every thought wasn't as bad. Uh, well, Micah says the good man is perished out of the earth. There is none upright. And matter of fact, didn't Paul say that in Romans?
Yeah, but that, but if you look back to the Psalms like we did in that class, it's talking about the wicked people.
You know, it's not saying that the children are bad. It's talking about men, about people who know better. And, you know, obviously Micah was exempt, wasn't he?
Right.
But the culture, the world around him was evil. It was wicked.
Good men became very scarce.
There is none upright among men. And even he admits to sin. For, you know, he says that. Um, verse 9, he says that he sinned. And he submits willingly to the will of God. I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him. So he
Well,
recognizes his sin.
my point in this, in Genesis, it says that every thought of the intent of the heart was evil continually. But here in Micah 7, it doesn't say that. So we don't know if. Yes, I agree that most of them were bad, but does that mean there wasn't ever a good thought?
Could you read the part of the sentence right after the colon there in the second verse?
They all lie in wait for blood.
No, wrong colon. The first colon.
There is none of bread among men.
What does the word none mean?
Zero.
So, do you think that Micah, under inspiration, knew what he was talking about when he put the phrase none upright among men?
Yes.
So then, are you willing to go and tell me that there were some upright?
Well, I'm not saying there was some upright, but the
You
distinct.
just said that that there was some upright.
No, I said the distinction needs to be made that in Genesis it specifically says every thought was evil. Here it just says there was none upright. It doesn't tell us the thinking process of man. That was the difference.
If you're thinking good things, can you lie in wait for blood and hunt your brother down with nets?
That's a good point.
Uh, the general consensus of their actions and thoughts was they were not doing good.
There's another question, and that comes from First John chapter 3.
I had a random light bulb here. How it
Oh,
says, the good man is perished out of the earth. It just, for some reason, made me think of Jesus when he says, why callest me good? There is none good but God. Just random burp. Don't know if it has any connection or not, but where did you want me to go?
First John chapter 3, verse 7.
Ooh.
Okay, so if we do righteousness,
Right.
we are righteous.
Which means we think righteous.
And do we not have the scripture that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he?
Right.
So if we are thinking righteous thoughts, are our actions going to be righteous or are they going to be unrighteous?
Well, we all sin. If we're thinking righteous thoughts, our actions will be righteous. But we have wicked thoughts too, so it doesn't make us a wicked person. See, my point is you can be wicked and do wicked things and have good thoughts. The difference between this text and Genesis 6 is one mentions the thoughts and intents are wicked, and another one says they're wicked. Like even a murderer can think, I love my wife, or I'm doing this for my wife in some twisted sense. See my point?
So, do you suppose then that the men and women of Noah's day didn't ever think a good thought?
That's what it says. Every
So, then why were there sons of God in the days of Noah?
Um,
And follow up question, does that include Noah?
doesn't it say the thoughts and the intentions of the heart of man are towards evil continually? As in constantly? Not exactly all the time, but more than not.
well, continually means continually, continuously.
Now, here's the thing. If we go over to Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5,
I think it's good to look at the text we're dealing with from both sides.
let me ask you, God saw, look at these words that is used. God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Does it say that every thought was evil, or does it say the imagination was evil?
The imagination of the thoughts of his heart.
So he was imagining evil continually.
All the time.
But did he love his wife?
I'm sure he did. Uh, but if he loved his wife, then that would be something good.
But did he imagine he loved his wife, or did he love his wife?
I see your point.
So, and that's what I'm getting at. We tend to, and I'm guilty of this just as well. We tend to focus on certain aspects to the exclusion of all else. And what happens is the text goes back and slaps us upside the head, just
Right.
like CJ and his whip. But it goes back and it slaps us upside the head. So if our imagination is continually evil, is it right to say then that there was none upright because he was thinking unrighteous thoughts?
Right.
But that's not saying that all of his thoughts are evil.
Right.
If
Two
I'm
plus
doing unrighteous things, that means I'm planning these things. You don't go and just simply do unrighteous things without thinking about them, do you?
No.
So I have to be planning unrighteousness. And that's what it actually says in verse 2. Look at that. They all lie in wait for blood. They have to purpose this, do they not? They
they're
have to be
calculating.
intending to lie in wait for blood, right?
They don't just happen to do it.
It's like,
Right.
oh, la, 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 la. I think, oh, here's a tree. I'm going to lie down behind it. Oh, there's my brother. I'm going to kill him. No, this they're intending to do. They set out. I'm going to go see what tree I can hide behind and kill my brother with today.
Now that
Um,
imagination was humorous.
so we get each and every one of us need to open ourselves up to the text. I cannot let my own thoughts trap me in a rigid, unyielding rut, because the minute I do, I leave no room for growth. So I want to, and every single one of us need to do that. Every single one of us need to grow, right?
Right. I guess the point is still that the difference in Genesis 6 is that we actually get into their mind. Here we don't have the imagination.
But is it implied?
Well, it just says
No,
what
no, no. That's not what I asked.
I'm just telling you what it says. It
I
just says
said, is it implied?
I don't know because it doesn't say. It just says that the land was.
CJ, you're being a little rigid right here. Okay. Is
Well,
it implied? If they're doing unrighteous acts, what are they imagining? What are they planning? Is an unrighteous act ever done, or always done, I should say, without any thought and planning to it? Is a righteous act ever done without any thought or planning?
right, I believe that totally, but to say that every thought they had was ever
No.
evil is something that the text does not say.
And it doesn't say that in Genesis 6, verse 5, which we just saw. It says the imagination.
Was every imagination, or is it just when they were lying in wait for blood?
It said every imagination.
Every imagination of the thoughts of his heart were evil.
Yeah, I mean,
Every imagination. Every time he imagined something, it was evil.
right. I was
In
bad.
other words, he was planning evil.
But where do you find that they are always planning evil? In not in Genesis 6.
In Micah 7,
Yes, I see that they're planning evil, but I don't see that continually.
They all
there
lie in ways.
there is none upright among men. None. If you are upright, you are doing upright actions. They all lie in wait for blood. Every one of them.
He even tells us what the best of them are.
Not some of them, not a few of them, all. They hunt every man his brother. Every man is hunting his brother.
All the time?
That is implied in the fact that all are lying in wait for blood. That is implied in the fact that none are upright. No,
Which
not
means
one.
there's not an instance when they aren't, because they all are. So there's not a one that's not, which means there's not a time when any of them aren't. Figured that one out. It runs in my mind that Jesus said, "You shall know a man by his actions."
The fruit, Matthew chapter 7. And notice verses 5 and 6. You can't even trust your friend. You can't trust a guide, a counselor, in other words. You can't even trust your own wife or your daughter.
It was free for all 24/7.
Wife, usually. Because the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter rises up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are they of his own house. Does that sound like they're doing righteous? They're planning righteous? Or does that sound like they're all plotting against one another to see how they can bring about their downfall? They're lying in wait for blood. I'll grant you that it doesn't say a single in here. There's no phrase that says that they're evil. Their thoughts were evil continually. However, we are given the gift of logic and reason, and we can imply or infer, in other words, from the words that are used, other principles. For example, in the fact that the good man is perished. Do you know what the word perished means?
They died.
They're died. They've died out. The good man is perished out of the earth. And even you see how that one's italicized. You can drop that and say the good is perished out of the earth, and none upright among men. It still makes sense. There's nothing good.
So why wasn't there another flood? Oh,
Genesis chapter 9.
Wait, a dumb question.
Oh, no. CJ,
No
we
such
don't
thing
have
as
dumb questions around
dumb
here,
question.
because a dumb question is a question that is never asked. We may have stupid questions. We may have funny questions, but we don't have dumb ones.
There's no such thing as a mute. There's no such thing as a mute question.
Go ahead, CJ. Let him talk like that.
And I was thinking, wait a minute, that was so.
Is that an open foot and insert mouse?
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead, guys. We're gonna let this one. We're gonna let this one rest. So I'm not gonna. I've read the comments, but I'm not gonna throw them up here on the screen. Sam, just know that you've had some really good comments, and I appreciate your comments. And we're going to, because of the time, give CJ his time in Malachi.
And Sam, just so you know, there is a scripture that says they plan continually evil on their beds. There is one, but somewhere it is written.
In a good book, somewhere.
Do we want to leave this at this and just start a new book next week? I would be fine with that.
You are?
I would be fine.
I leave it up to your discretion.
Yeah, we'll go over and they'll give us a new book. And we had a good discussion.
We did have a really good, and thank you, CJ. I really appreciate your zeal for the Lord, and I appreciate how you have engendered such a deep concept, a deep conversation. Guys, we as Christians can still have disagreements and reason together to the point of where we come to an understanding without it destroying our unity. If
Right.
we all remain united in doctrine upon the foundation of the scriptures, we can then come to unity on any of the major points. And it does us good to discuss in a reasoning fashion.
And what I say is these issues, whether or not they could do any good here in the States or not, does not matter. It just
The
doesn't.
general point is still the same.
It doesn't affect my salvation. It doesn't affect what Jesus did. Uh, but I can see your points, and I'm gonna study. But I still think there's a difference in the flood in this account. Uh, I guess maybe my main difference would be because it explicitly says every imagination of the heart of man is evil, and this one doesn't.
And study is always good. The Sam says no questions, no growth. That's very true. If we stop seeking, if we stop asking questions, we stop seeking. If we stop seeking, we stop growing. If we stop growing, we are cut off and thrown in the fire.
Right.
That's it in
Hasn't
a nutshell.
hasn't it been said that the moment a man stops learning, he dies?
Yes, but it's also been said that the moment we are born, we start to die.
Oxygen is slowly killing us.
That's true too. We are a crazy, mixed up organism.
So, I hope our study has been beneficial as for me. Uh, uh, and remember at the end, oh, before I do that, remember tomorrow night, Romans
CJ's announcements.
Romans class is back. Oh, it's a glory.
It's back.
Back for 3 weeks, and then we get another break. But it's back for now. Uh, um, we yes, and we will be finishing up chapter 3 tomorrow night. Willing. No, not chapter 3, chapter 4. Stop derailing me. All of this is true, and all of this is derailing me. Oh, so what was I saying?
All right, I'll stop.
So
he laughs like Mugsley.
Romans class tomorrow night, 9:20. We will be finishing up chapter 4. And hope you can join us then. Is there anything else, guys, you want to say?
Yeah. Sam, you mean you've never heard of a platypus? Just because we say it's crazy doesn't mean we're talking about chaotic. Crazy is something we may not understand the reasoning behind. A platypus, now that's funny and crazy, strange, weird, and
We
mixed
don't
up
get
all at
the
the
point.
same times. Have you ever seen a duck mammal? Anyway,
We don't get the point on
we
what
are
it is.
indeed made for God's good pleasure. God does not do things without a reason. And maybe, just maybe, his reason was because Sam needs a little humor in his life.
And
It all goes
imagine
back to point out that God, one, knew what he was doing, and he prepared all of this before the world began. just
or,
so that you would laugh.
or
And
he
think
just
about how much
simply made
calculating.
Go ahead,
he,
CJ.
he just simply made a platypus for Agent Peter spring into our
They're a platypus. They don't do anything. All right. We hope you'll join us next Wednesday, or no, not Wednesday, next Friday, because I'm in my education classes on Wednesday, which is why we had to do this mixed up, messed up, rearranged to Friday. Next Friday, we pick up in Nahum then instead of in Micah.
And by the way, it is Fun Friday.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Hi.
So, CJ, take us out.
Thank you for joining us. Remember at CEM we want to do 3 things. Alright, cool. Glorify God. Edify the saints and answer any spiritual questions you may have. And yes, there will be a quiz on this next week. Name the 3 things CEM's about.
What are you doing?
But seriously, we hope we've met our goals and we've edified you. God bless you.
We hope indeed that we have edified you. That way, you are walking with the King closer each and every day. So that whether we wake to serve God tomorrow here on this earth, or we wake to serve Him up there tomorrow, you know where we'll be because we'll see you then. God bless.
Thank you all for being here. It was a pleasure reading with you, studying with you all. Till we meet again, God bless you
Good night,
all.
for you.
Love you. Bye bye.